Hi teachers, welcome back. This is video 3 in our end of the year video series. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jessica Tobin and I am the blogger at Elementary Nest. And today's video is going to be all about getting everything done in the last few weeks while trying to maintain a consistent classroom for your students. So we're going to be talking about how to maintain a consistent daily schedule. We're going to talk about how to get all of that stuff done that we talked about in video 1 done in a timely manner. And then we're also going to talk about how to close up your classroom and keeping a nice healthy environment for your students. Now on Monday, or not Monday, sorry, on video 1, I don't know when you watched the video, but in video 1, we talked about all of these expectations. And all of these expectations are going to be all the things that you have to do in the next 3 to 4 weeks. It's going to be an overwhelming amount of stuff, but since you're teachers, you're just expected to do it all. And you're expected to do it while maintaining behavior and consistent schedule and getting all of these tasks done. So I know it's going to be a very busy time of your year, so I wanted to make this video to kind of go over a few tips on how to make it a little bit more manageable for you. So I want this to be a time of the year that you can really enjoy these last few moments and these last few days with your students. I want you to kind of work ahead so that you can do all of this and enjoy your job with as little stress as possible. I know it's not going to be stress-free, but I am going to try to give you tips that will create an environment that has as little stress as possible. So what I'm going to suggest is to not completely change the way that your classroom runs. Instead, incorporate little pieces of your huge to-do list into their daily schedule. So what you see here is a couple pages from my end of the year memory book. So a memory book is probably going to be on your to-do list. Now every single day for maybe the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, depending on how big your memory book is, this activity can be part of small group rotations or writing stations or maybe their morning work time. If they do 1 or 2 pages a day, depending on how easy or difficult that page is, by the end of the 2 weeks, the memory book will be complete and you have not really lost any instructional time and you haven't really done anything that's out of the ordinary that's going to make your kids feel like it's time for a free-for-all because school's over. So there's a link to this memory book in the description in case you need it or in case you need one, but that's just one of those things you're going to pick out of your to-do list and try to get it done in a smaller chunk throughout the next 3 weeks, maybe next 5 weeks, depending on how early you're starting. Another way to work all of this into your schedule is to incorporate that summer weather, the summer season that's coming up. So the kids are crazy. You're feeling a little crazy, you're feeling very exhausted, the weather is gorgeous outside, and maybe you only have 10 or 12 days of school left. That's going to be a recipe for a distracted classroom. Now instead, you can take this summer excitement and add it into your daily lessons. So for example, in this picture you see like a little fold and go mini book that's all about summer, and it's differentiated. So I can use this in small group. I can have, 3 different groups reading 3 different beach mini books, and I don't have to completely throw out all of my lessons for small group activity. My students are still getting that small group time with me every day, but we're just kind of giving into the summer excitement a little bit. Here is another example of some summer fun. Maybe during your writing stations you don't really want to completely throw out all of your writing practice activities. You still want your kids working on those skills that they've worked on throughout the whole year. So this is an interactive writing activity where the students cut and glue their own story based off of 3 pictures, and that gives them still some standards-based writing practice plus a little bit of summer fun that they can really give into that feeling of summer excitement. So the next 2 slides we're going to discuss kind of talk about taking advantage of every small moment you have to get in those last minute grades, to get in last minute assessments. Think of all the time that you have maybe during small group or during math centers or daily 5 rotations. You're going to use these moments to pull maybe 3 or 4 kids during that block and assess those kids. You might have to do some end of the year benchmarks on your students. So that would be a great time to pull, the last 2 to 3 weeks of daily 5 centers or whichever ELA block structure you have. If you take those last 3 weeks during some sort of small group and pull 2 to 3 kids, you could get some of those benchmark assessments completed. If you work daily 5, you can put some worksheets in there. You can treat those worksheets as assessments or informal assessments. Same with math groups. If you want to put some worksheets or activities in math group time or math center time, you can pull those and use their activities as some last minute activity grades or assessment grades if you are looking to fill some, if you're needing to fill some grade slots. So you will use some of these fun new resources that you're going to pull for summer if you want, or if you are not looking to fill grades and you are just wanting more of like a participation or a standards-based checking system, you can pull some of your old content from, your story elements lesson, have them complete that activity, and if you're a standards-based report card, you can kind of check off if the student has achieved that standard or if they need more work on that standard, if they have mastery on it. So however your schooling is for your classroom or your school will depend on what kind of grades you're going to be taking at the end of the year. However, small group time, downtime during ELA blocks or math blocks are great times to pull kids 1 at a time, maybe 2 at a time, to get those assessments and grades in. So we just talked about taking advantage of some of your classroom time to get some grades done and some end of the year tasks done. We're going to shift now into talking about how to break down your classroom or clean up your classroom, however you want to call it, with the help of your students. And you want to make sure you do this in a manner that is not going to throw your students off, because if you completely shut down your classroom too early, it can cause more behavior problems, which we talked about yesterday. I'm going to include a little picture in the corner of this video and discuss my first year of teaching. I was not really told or instructed when to clean up my classroom, and I was very on top of things. I like being organized, and when I am given a to-do list and when I'm given stuff to do, I want to get it done. So I was working through my end of the year list. I had to do inventory in my classroom. I had to get things off the walls, things off of cubbies, and what the students were left with was a very empty classroom. And we had like 7 days of school left, and my students just had a very empty classroom for 7 days. So any stress that was created because of this change in environment or change in scenery was my fault. I did it too early. So I'm going to talk about a couple of ways to either have your students help with that, or ways just to do it in a slow manner, so it's just not a very alarming change one day when they show up. Now, if your school requires you to remove items from your wall, just don't do it too early. Leave most of the stuff that's up on your wall, leave your bulletin boards, posters, rules, leave it up towards the last minute, because if you take it all down too quickly, that really can, create a blank environment, and it signals to the kids that you've checked out, or that you're done with teaching, or that something has changed in your classroom and, expectations are not the same. So those kind of things, I would say don't do it too early. And then I will give you some solutions in a couple of slides to include the children in those processes to make it a little bit more or a little bit less alarming. Now, if you are a tested grade level, if you have like state testing, you likely already had to transform your classroom into a content-free classroom. I know most states require you to cover up anchor charts, bulletin boards, anything that can provide any sort of help on a state test. Most teachers in my school buildings would just like cover everything with butcher paper. Now, if you want, what you can do is turn that butcher paper or poster board that you have covered your whole class with, maybe turn it into a fun activity and promise them that after state testing they can take down these blank empty sheets that are covering up their beautiful classroom, and they can turn it into some sort of mural or art project. So, if your students come in and their classroom looks completely empty because you had to cover everything up, maybe give them a little bit of a promise that you'll turn it into maybe a project of some sort. Anything that's going to give them some ownership over the transforming classroom that they are seeing in those last few weeks of school. Now, if you have student work hanging from the ceiling or on the walls or maybe out in the hallway, and you want to get some of these that you can send home, then turn it into an opportunity to involve your students. Maybe turn it into an art show or give them some sort of ownership over that part of your classroom close-up. Let them present their old work to the class or do like a cooperative learning structure where they can discuss what they created and kind of reminisce on the activity itself. Maybe have them do like a mix pair share and they can discuss with a few friends what they created or what they did. So you can turn it into like an art show or a show and tell, just so that they don't show up one day of school and everything's off the wall. So you're giving them kind of an opportunity to be involved with that classroom close-up. Now, on to the actual process of getting your classroom cleaned up and closed up. Start as early as you can on the stuff that your kids can't see. So maybe part of that huge to-do list that we talked about in video 1 is to add what parts of your classroom you need to get cleaned out. Sometimes you have to clean out all of your desks so that the teacher or so that the custodians can wax the floors, and they can't move the desks when they're filled. So if you know that you have to clear out your desk, add it to your to-do list and then break it up a little bit at a time. Maybe get the stuff that your kids can't see. Old drawers that maybe have pipe cleaners or old papers or printer papers. Get these cleaned out, get them organized so it's one less thing to do in your last few days of the classroom. Now, cleaning up your classroom, there is going to be a lot to do, and typically teachers are not provided the extra time at the end of the year to get this closed up. Usually you have your last day of school and you might have some PD afterwards, and then like it's summer and you have to close up your room on top of all this. So only take a few things down every day so that you're not messing up the student's environment, but you're also trying to get ahead so that you're not feeling overwhelmed and stressed. So they're not going to notice if you clear off maybe one shelf of books or 5 stuffed animals from the top of the reading shelf. They're going to notice if half the classroom is packed up in boxes in one day. They're not going to notice these little steps of getting everything cleaned up, maybe packing 1 box or 2 boxes, or getting things, maybe getting one section of the cubbies cleared out and put into a nice organized closet. Keep in mind, not all of your students are going to look forward to summer breaks. Some of your students might be really dreading that summer break month or months. So if school is a happy place for a lot of these kids, you don't want to make it seem like you're, counting down the seconds until they're gone and you're just trying to get their classroom closed up so that on the last day of school, you can send them off and go. So you want to still give them that safe environment until their very last day of school. And once the last few days do get there, let the kids help you. Give them paper towels to dust off the chairs or dust off the table legs. Give them maybe safe Clorox wipes, maybe not Clorox, but like the natural version of them, to wipe down any bookshelves or the bottom of chairs. So the students are going to take so much pride in prepping your classroom for the next set of students that are going to come into your classroom. So if you kind of phrase it like, the second grade classroom is going to have a bunch of new second graders next year, and your students are going to kind of feel honored in prepping your class for the next group of students. So those could be just a way that the kids can help you. You give them a little bit of ownership over that classroom close up, and it takes a little bit off of your plate as well. And that concludes video 3. So this is the 3rd video in the end of the year video series. If you have stumbled upon this video without seeing the first 2 videos, I will leave links in the description, or I'll put a pop-up at the end of this video for those 2 that you may have missed. Now, the freebies that I talked about throughout all 3 videos are linked in the description below, but I will also put a link that you can type in at the bottom of this video. That's going to take you to a 10-page freebie that will show up in your email inbox. When you get the email, you'll have to open it on a computer. It is a zip file because it's going to have an editable copy and a worksheet copy, and I couldn't put them together. I had to make it a zip file. So when you get it, you'll just download it to your computer, unzip the file, and you'll have those 2 documents. I will be making more videos for you in this summer. We're going to be talking more about ELA and diving into how to make your ELA block a lot smoother for you. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Other than that, I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much for tuning in to this 3-part video series. And if you have any questions at all, just let me know. Thanks.